Alright, welcome back to my shop. So I finished the dies on the new Anyang 25-ton press that's in the shop, and once again I had to return the coal iron. Great group of guys to work with. It's just with the design of the dies, despite my best efforts and with them helping me, the dies would loosen in retraction. They would hold to a point, but in the end I had to go with this style of H-frame press with the T-slot table. So with those dies finished, it's a big flat 6x6 pad, and I want to do a test run with these dudes right here. So I've got them all set at 3 inches in height, all right, and it ranges 1/4 inch increments from 1 inch to 2 inches, and then for grins I've got some 4140 at 2.5, big beefy guy, to see what that press is going to do with strict compressions. And I'm going to set it in the digital kiln at 2000 degrees. So I'll get this in the kiln and then we'll go straight to compressions to forging. So the parts have cooled down now, and I think it worked out all right. I think this press is a handy little press at 25-ton compression. It certainly isn't going to be as capable as the 50-ton, but I don't have 3-phase, or nor do I want to mess with a rotary phase converter. So this press is surprisingly heavy once it's full of the hydraulic oil, and tall. So I've got my tape measure here, and when it comes from the distributor, it'll be on a pallet with a metal shroud around, and I would certainly recommend cutting the shroud away from the press so that you don't rip off delicate items like this red knob, the reset knob, or oil cap, anything on the exterior. You know, these levers, you want to avoid ripping them off as soon as you get it. So right, so if you are lifting it out of your trailer, I'll give you an idea. This is 7 feet tall, 84 inches, and that's with the leveling feet on. Now when it comes from the factory, it will not have the leveling feet on. They'll be all in a little cluster. When you do have this lifted up, and you're screwing the leveling feet on, they're very coarse screws, but some of them had burrs on them. So certainly look them over. I had to hand file some so that they would screw into the underside. It's all heavy plate here. The whole thing's super overkill construction for heavy plate, either welded, etc. The other thing I want to show you, at least here, is the lifting eyes. So if you're getting it out of your trailer, lifting eyes, the top of the lifting eye is 77 inches from the top here. So you measure it with the height of your trailer, get it out. When you're lifting this with chains or forklift, the machine will want to lift at it canted at an angle. And don't be alarmed. That is so that the machine can lift. Basically, it's going to tilt this way and up, and that way this lifting chain here will avoid your hydraulic line. Really important. You don't want to bend this thing and screw it up from the get-go. So anyhow, so let's go into a closer shot, and we'll go over some of the details. All right, so let's start from the base and work our way up the machine. These are the leveling feet. There are 6 of them, and fairly coarse thread, not an Acme thread, but coarse thread. This is solid steel. There's no rubber footing underneath. So when you run this down and you're too aggressive, basically you're going to start cutting into your floor. So no big deal. Let me show you the height here. So I've got this at about the middle setting of the threads here. So the threads go up about, I don't know, maybe 2 inches into this block here. And you don't want to run it up too high because then you don't have a lot of threading and the footing becomes wobbly. So there's a little play with this screw. So I would recommend run it to maybe half the length of the screw, and that's going to get you from the base to the lower portion, or let's just say the top of this plate, roughly 7 inches. And that is roughly the same height as my power hammer lower die as far as for operation. And I'm fine with that. I'm going to pretty much use this thing with a chair half the time so I don't screw up. But if you want to raise this higher, I would not recommend running this to the absolute maximum. These leveling feet get a little wobbly. So if you need it higher, I would fabricate a base for it or heavy-duty wood blocks just for your own safety. So this is the foot pedal, and this controls it all. We have 1 foot pedal. Older versions I think had 2. It's only a high-speed operation, so you have your shroud. You press down, and the ram, it's all compressing down, high speed. When you release, the ram is going to instantly retract at high speed. And I would say that is the one limitation of this press, is it's all or nothing. There's no neutral feature where if you, let's say you press down, and then there's like a middle portion here where the die or the top ram is hovering. There's no hover. So you have to build tooling to accommodate that limitation. In the future, they may design some type of a digital controller add-on, like the coal iron press, which would give us either a jog function or a neutral hover or some other type of minor adjustment. But right now, once again, you press down, press is going down. You release, the press is going up. So something to be aware of. So in this box here are the guts of the machine, and this shroud, I'm not taking it off. It's a pain in the neck to take off and put on because of the hoses, but it's a little flimsy. You can kind of tell that it's just there for grins almost. It's held on by 2 set screws. A set screw here, set screw here, and undo those 2, and it can lift up and out. And in here you got your 5 horsepower motor, your hydraulic pump, and then two relays that control the machine. So this is the back side of the press, and it's the reservoir, the hydraulic fluid tank. And it's massive. I mean, it's massive. You should look at the 50-ton. It's gigantic. Even this one, for a 25-ton press, it's got I think it's something like 60 gallons of hydraulic oil in this reservoir. And it allows for cooler operation. There's a sight glass here, and this is the cap for filling. When you are thinking about buying this press, something to be aware of is that you're looking at about $500 extra just to fill this thing with the hydraulic oil. And if the distributor doesn't fill it for you, then you're going to have to get some type of a pump to pump out of a 55-gallon barrel to get it in here. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of fluid. So something to be aware of when you're saving up for it. So in this box is the electrical system for the press. And it's got this cool little triangular key here. So I've unlocked it, and it's fairly complicated. I really know nothing about this system. The one takeaway, though, I was told from the distributor is that these little relays here, whatever they are, can get burned out through power surges. So use your press throughout the day. Don't ever run it in a lightning storm, and when you're done operating it for the day, always unplug it off of the wall. I haven't had any problems with my Sahindler ever doing this. I've always left that plugged in, but apparently for this system, use it, unplug it, and that'll keep you from having to change these out if they were to get fried. So just food for thought. So this is the how you kick this thing on. So the my reset knob got sheared off in transit. So how this thing would work is you counterclockwise turn, the spring here will pop it loose, and then it's going to green light the system for you to turn the key and turn it on. So since mine got sheared off, I turn this little ghetto knob. So there's no turn function. I kill it like so. So now it's in the open position. I turn the key and the press should turn on. Like so. So on the front of the machine, there's a new feature here which is pretty cool. It's these limiter switches allow you to set the height of your ram. So it'd be great for setting up tooling where you want to just close the gap, as it were. So how it works is this one's glowing, this one isn't. They have to be aligned. That's the only trade-off with this, is if you watch, if I unscrew this, lower it down, and I tilt it, right, yeah, the light goes out. When I bring it back, the light goes on. So it's making that electrical contact signal, you know, this is flat, that is flat. So this has to be flat if you're going to set the height of your system. But let me show you this concept in operation. All right, I'll turn my machine on. Let's go to compact all the way. Max compression. Gonna stop here. Now watch this. Loosen. Let's say take it just for grins. We'll take it down here. Make sure the light is glowing. So this will allow you to set your precise height for setting up tooling, or if you want to do forging compressions and you don't want this ram to travel all the way to the top and back down, it's going to cut your forging time in half. I mean, it's pretty awesome. So I definitely will be using that in the future. This is you only have one set of dies that come with the machine, and so this is the bottom die, and the footprint is roughly 2 inches by 9 inches in length, and it's all one-piece construction, heavy-duty machining. It is, I'm sure it's great for rough forging. The only trade-off is, of course, a couple things. One, it has to be narrow enough to do the work because it's 25 tons. The trade-off is, of course, beyond this 2 inches, you're going to get your work squishing off the front and back, and you're going to have to constantly rotate to correct that. The other trade-off is because it's so long, you don't have a lot of room here for height blocks on either side. You could put shorter height blocks here, maybe like drop down height block on each side, and that would totally work. But that is that's an issue I'm having with this press. Now granted, it's 9 inches in length for this pass-through window here, so if you were doing like a pattern welded billet or something where you wanted to squish it down and straighten it, then you can use it like that. One idea that I'm kind of kicking around if I want to sabotage this thing is this is roughly 4 inches apart, just like the T-slot table spacing here. So I'm thinking about maybe chopping this sucker from here off and then using this as like a drop down aggressive die, and then when I don't want it, unbolt it and put something else in. But that would allow me to use these pads here for height blocks in the future. So as an alternative to the factory dies that came with the machine, for the last month I've been working on this concept, and what it is a 6x6 pad. It's just an oversized square, and think of it like a work table. So you could put in die shoes or other custom tooling. You slide it in, and it's pretty big, but this pad will accommodate that equal compression. You take it out, so it's a big work area that you can put a lot of tooling in there, no problem. Also, the 6 inches is about the maximum for this T-slot table if you want to use the grooves here for locking in the front. Any bigger, you're going to have to take up the last set of grooves here. And so anyhow, with 6 inches, you have one groove on either side still, and I've put pads down that will protect the table. This T-slot table is mild steel, and if you ever were to drive something sharp onto those grooves, you're going to smash them in, ruin the table, so protect that at all costs. So I've put these removable pads down, and they're 1/2 inch pads, you know, top and bottom, and I'm going to go to the steel yard tomorrow, get some oversized cylinders and machine them to the exact height each side, and that's going to act as precision height blocks in the future for future projects. It's just something I want to point out with this style of press, this H-frame style. Yes, you're going to be forging into a more confined space. It's not going to be as open, but what you gain is huge, and that is rigidity. So the ram slides up and down on wear plates here, and these are the grooves that you always keep lubricated, but it's supported. You've got 2 contact points here on each side of the pillar, so 4 and then 4. And when it's compressing down, if your work is off center slightly, that's no big deal. This press can handle that, you know, deviation and still squish down without a lot of shift. What I found in the previous press is that if it was slightly off kilter and you press like an offset press, the dies would either shift or they would loosen, and that's a no-go for me. If I'm going to build tooling that's precision tooling, that's dialed in, I want 0 deviation. I want it to be forged down to an exact tolerance and then retract, or to compress and then retract, so that I can build a very accurate system. So this is great. So this style of press for my needs is the way to go. Just make sure, of course, that you lubricate all moving parts so that you don't wear anything out prematurely. All right, so this is the general overview of my Fancy Pants new press. I'm excited. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a great addition to the shop. It's going to be nice having both the power hammer and the press, the luxury of having a forging operation on the power hammer, and then I can run right over to the press, and having them both be able to run on at the same time versus like if I went up to a 50 ton using a rotary phase converter, 20 horsepower motor, I would just have enough power in the shop to run that and that alone. So this will be great having that ability. So I got a bunch of projects I want to try out with this system, with this press, that I've kind of back burner projects that I wanted to do on the fly press originally, but that only delivers 5 tons of force. So this is 25 tons of force. So I can kind of revisit some old projects, and I'm excited. I think it's going to be great. So anyhow, thank you so much for following me, and I will see you on the next video.